What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 68 of the Overview. I'm ChanManV, and joining me today, and unfortunately, we're doing it at the same time as the Overwatch World Cup right now.
Oh, is that going on right now?
That's going on? But joining me is obviously Fishstix, my co-host, and we've got
Hey.
the Double G guests today. We've got Gilfrost joining us again, and then we've got a first-timer, Graceful, from Team Mega Thunder, joining us from Thailand. So,
Thanks for having me.
Good morning, buddy.
Good morning.
Good morning. And,
Oh, you're already out there. I didn't realize.
Yeah,
Nice.
we're out in Thailand, in Bangkok.
Nice. Bangkok, man. Have you ever been to Bangkok before?
Yeah, well, I'm from Thailand.
Oh,
So.
that's right. That's right. Yeah, of course. Okay, nice. I've never been to Bangkok. I have this vision of Bangkok and how awesome it is. I'm wondering if it actually matches.
The best part is the food. I would tell you that for sure. 100%.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I want to go to Thailand basically for the food and also the aesthetics. I just want to see the jungle and eat curry, and that's pretty much nothing else.
I don't think there is anything else. No.
No, come on. There's Thai boxing.
There's massages.
I'll watch that. I don't know if I want to get too involved.
There's nice massages out there too.
No, really.
People walking on your back and everything. It's pretty cool. Gil, how you doing over there, man? Still in Colorado?
I'm doing pretty well. Yeah, pretty excited.
Yeah.
Watching some World Cup action and between frames anyway, getting some good play in there and enjoying watching the analyst desk and hearing what they have to say.
Yeah, definitely. Comparing it to maybe Overwatch contenders.
I'm watching it very from a different filter than a lot of people are probably.
I think everybody does that. Once you get into production, you see things in a very, very different light.
Yeah, I actually wrote a blog about the World Cup, and it's basically just about the production. It's like, no teams. Like, who even won?
Who cares about the games, right? Yeah. Totally. All right. Well, anyways, we've got obviously a list of things that we're going to be talking about today. Graceful, obviously, on here. There's a big announcement, obviously, involving him in Mega Thunder. So I wanted to go through that and do a mini interview with him. And then we're going to be talking about World Cup just last week in Shanghai and obviously right this second in Sydney. Definitely covering some of the results there and production and everything. And then maybe some little minor things with Overwatch League in the last week. Not too much after the giant announcement the previous week, but maybe just a little bit there. Topic of the week, we have I think something that Jeff said a week ago, and we never got a chance to talk about. So I figured maybe we would talk about it now, which was balance and perceived balance and things like that right now. We could expound it to just the competitive ladder now if you guys want to go down that route. But
sounds great.
Yeah, we'll just kind of let it go. And then there's player news, team news, a couple teams that unfortunately have dropped from Overwatch, and we'll talk about that. And then Apex Season 4 has already been finalized, at least with the teams. So we can talk about that a little bit too. Got a question from a fan too. So definitely nice to start getting some email questions again. If you have a question, go ahead and email that to theoverview@chanmanv.tv, and we'll be sure to read it and discuss it and hopefully answer your question. But want to start off with talking to you, Graceful. So for those of you wondering, maybe not too familiar with Graceful, Graceful is a player that has just been recently picked up by Mega Esports, and the team is Mega Thunder officially. But Mega Esports is making a lot of moves recently. The folks in the West might not have been following as closely, but they've been doing a lot of things in the last 3 weeks and announcing, just making a big push, just in esports, and Overwatch just happens to be one. So how's the experience so far? You moved to Bangkok recently. Just tell me about it.
Yeah, we moved here about like a week ago, pretty much. And it's been amazing just meeting all the Thai players and obviously getting back with Pure or Brad, who's my old teammate as well from Splice, and also Moffat, who was on the 2 rosters ago on Splice as well. So, and just getting to meet LKI in person, and it's just been great so far. We've just been doing a lot of team bonding stuff, and just recently got into doing scrims and like real game practices. We've just been focusing on just getting that team bonding done and trusting each other and getting to know each other well.
Yeah, so having the 3 of you guys join Mega Thunder and joining a pretty already like a Thai team, that makes how many players now? Is that 7 players or is that 8 players on the roster?
Actually, so before Mega Esports brought me in with Moffat, Elkia, and Brad as a coach, it was just me and Brad first, right?
Yeah.
We were talking about it would have actually been in Indonesia first, but it turned out to be Thailand after they managed to buy out a roster, which is the old Fireballs.
Yes.
So we got 6 Thai players, and to be able to play in the Thai region, you'd either need at least 3 Thai players, right? So we just bought a roster, and then we just brought in 3 foreign players, or so-called, and we're just trying to mismatch to see the roster right now, and we're just feeling things out right now.
Yeah.
So we got 6 Thai players, and we got 3 foreign players.
And those not familiar with the team Fireball, they had already had great results in OPC. So, this isn't just like 6 random Thai people that are on a small team. This is actually already a high-profile team out in Thailand. So this is a pretty good combination of guys, like having the 3 of you guys join the mix, and Pure too. Brad was on the show like 3 weeks ago, talking about a potential big announcement, and it turns out this is what it is, right?
We were all trying to keep it low as well.
Yeah. Then
me and Brad made a mess when we were just posting on Discord. Big announcement will be on Monday, and everybody posted like, everyone said the same thing.
Yeah.
Nice. That's how you build the hype. Just do little hype building shit like that. I love it.
Yeah.
Blizzard. That's how Blizzard does it as well. Just drop something here.
Just like
if
drop something like, here and then just hope people.
If something gets dropped, there's always a reason for it. People are like, "Oh, it could be this. It could." No, there's always a reason for it. So watch carefully.
Yeah, totally. So how is it getting, I guess, accustomed there? You're actually from Thailand, right?
So pretty much how it is right now is that I was born and raised in Sweden, right? But both my parents are Thai, so I generally speak Thai, but on a very low level, right?
I know that.
So the Thai people are making fun of me, kind of. No, but so me getting accustomed is a little bit easier, I would say, because I can actually understand most of the conversations and talk back on a baby level or a kid's level.
Yeah.
But we're definitely it's feeling pretty nice. I'm just getting used to the swapping between Thai, English, and when I talk to my family and friends, I talk Swedish. I play comp ladder, I talk Korean. It's really hard, but
nice.
Gotta get there somehow.
You speak some Korean too, man. This is
I just got the words that you need. Just Anna, bong me.
That's all you need. I'm ready to play, actually.
I'm ready to play now. Fighting, let's go.
So do any of the Thai players speak English? English is a pretty prominent language in Thailand, right?
Yeah. So how it is right now is that Oputo, which is pretty much the star of the Fireballs player or so on, the DPS projectile player, he speaks the most, I would say, fluent English, but we still have some a little bit of communication errors in terms of we need to speak slow and make sure he understands, and then he'll translate, right? So the other Thai players understand English to a certain degree, where they more than likely understand a few words in a sentence here and there, and then they just ask for specifics.
Okay, so it's not too bad, right? Then
it's not too bad. We also have a translator on spot.
Oh God, that'd be so crazy.
Yeah.
That'd be crazy having to hear a translator on comms with all of you guys. Oh man.
The best part is when we're doing whiteboard and we're just standing there. I talk a whole 5 minutes, and then I look at our translator and he's like, "Okay, my turn," and he just starts speaking Thai.
Well, if that compares to anything that happens on the stage, that usually means it's translated completely different than what it usually is supposed to be, right?
But he can pick up on it at least.
Yeah,
he can at least sort of know how he's putting.
Yeah,
it.
when I noticed that they're
that's what I
that's
said.
not what I said, dude.
When I notice there's some kind of confusion, I try to speak 2 words in English and then I put in a Thai word that I know they can understand.
Thai-glish.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good stuff. Well, so I know the main focus right now for you guys, given that you guys aren't here in the West playing in just whatever events that we typically have in the West, and I'm not even sure they even exist at this point, given that Overwatch League's about to start and with contenders and everything. But I know you guys are focused on OPC, the Overwatch Pacific Championship. And that is actually a big tournament for those of you that are not familiar with Asian tournaments. It's a big tournament out in Asia. And it's a prize pool of 100K.
Yeah.
And, Fireball's done very, very well in the past. So I'm figuring, or at least everybody's figuring, that you guys are going to be a favorite coming into it. So, I don't know. Talk to us about that and just prepping for that.
So pretty much how it is right now, every time, I think the bottom low of the top 8, I would say, right, gets like needs to go back into qualifiers so that new teams have a chance to get up in there, proceed through the qualifiers. And Fireballs just managed to secure their spot again for next season. So we're like up there, but it's going to be really hard because we have communication errors, obviously, because we're like a split roster in sort of way.
Right.
But I think like what we're focusing on right now to winning OPC or just placing well at least would be just doing what we can do here in practice. Because in my head, at least, I feel that tournaments are easy. Like there's no doubt tournaments are easy. Sure, you have factors where you can be nervous, you need to pop off and like stuff like that. But tournaments are the easy part. The hard part is like in scrims, people waking up in time, people having discipline, people doing all the right stuff. Like to be a pro, you need to eat like a pro, you need to sleep like a pro, you need to practice like a pro, you need to do everything properly, right?
Yeah.
So we're just focusing on fundamentals for now, like because we need synergy and stuff.
Yeah, it's gonna take some time.
That's a good approach. I like it a lot.
Yeah. Always take some time. I mean, it's a lot to ask of a team just to instantly, be jiving together and even schedule wise, having everything in sync. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, cool. So I think one big question maybe that folks that end up listening to the show or maybe watching right now is, how does Mega Esports or Mega Thunder fit into the whole grand scheme of Overwatch League? And what I've heard, I've talked to obviously some people from Mega Esports like Hardy and even Brad to an extent too, is that Mega Esports is very interested in participating in the Overwatch League. So,
yes.
I mean, everybody's understands clear on all the buy-ins and they're very, very interested in it. So Mega Esports, for those of you wondering, they're a Hong Kong-based company and, they've definitely got lots of venture or at least investors behind the company too. So there's plenty of money to go around, and
you gotta have that.
Exactly, and I totally have to have that these days, right?
You gotta
Overwatch.
have
that.
Sadly enough for me.
Yeah. So and one of the
What, you want to sponsor a team?
Exactly.
Gil? Is that what you're
I
saying?
really want to.
Denver, man.
But,
Denver's a good city. Definitely
if I had the opportunity, let me tell you.
You can talk to you can actually talk to the Broncos owner or the Nuggets owner, right?
We actually have worked with some people around here on stuff, but I mean, we not on this level.
Yeah.
But yeah. The Cronkies.
The Cronkies.
I think it's really good just getting into the Overwatch scene in general right now because like it'll be so much bigger on a scale. I think even not just the pro level, but like beneath pro level and even a little bit lower than that. Like they're doing like the open division thingy. And stuff like that. It just gives everyone the opportunity to, rise to the occasion, which is really nice. I really like that. Like, it's not just focused simply on the top 1%, right?
Yeah. Right. And it's something that not a lot of other esports have done very well. So I'm really excited to see what Overwatch looks like for that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm really curious, given that, a company like Mega Esports is ready to get into it or seem to be positioning themselves and serious about getting into it versus some of the other endemic esports teams, which seem to be the opposite. I'm curious to see when that's going to happen because, last week we talked about the first 7 and, I think with Jacob, we were speculating whether it would be 14 would be, kind of this magic number to get to maybe for the first season. And so, there's an extra 7 spots or maybe even more. And I mean, why not include some more Asian teams, right?
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah, that's definitely good. I wonder eventually, what do you guys think? Do you think Overwatch League will, are they going to cap it off at a certain amount just in the end? Kind of like NBA 32 teams, right? Are we going to have like a cap for that? Or are we going to just keep going and then eventually there's going to be kind of region lock kind of
things? I think they might have like the mindset of like letting it grow as large as it can be. And then if they need it to be, they might cut it off, I would say. I don't think they would. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say from an organizational level, I don't think they're gonna say like we only have 32, 12 teams, but it's gonna be more of an organic thing, where, as long as the space has room to fill, and as long as a partner team that not only has the money to buy in, but also has the proper backing in other areas to be a good part of the ecosystem, then that's going to be the determining factor, not a hard limit. Because I could see it growing to be extremely large.
Yeah. I could see it.
The question is, if you go down that path indefinitely, then do you have to split it out by region in some way or not? Which, I mean, we still have all kinds of questions about how OW League is going to work logistically in terms of...
I don't think that's the plan, at least not in a hard sense, like where they're only going to meet at World Cup or whatever the global equivalent be. I think that they want all of the teams to interact.
It could be like conferences.
The entire league,
it could be like conferences. You play like
I could definitely see that. Yeah,
interconference. You play 2 or 3 times a season, and then you play out of conference 1 time a season type of thing. I could see that too.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Anyways, it's pretty exciting. Pretty exciting to be part of an organization that you can be very confident that wants to be part of Overwatch League, because that is the future. If you're not going to be part of Overwatch League, I mean, I don't know what you're going to be doing.
Contenders, come on.
Okay.
Contenders.
Yeah, but contenders, the point is to be part of the Overwatch League. So
I guess, and not from an organization perspective, though.
Yeah,
so.
that's more of a player. Yeah. That's true.
I think as a player, the dream is to be in Overwatch League. But I wouldn't say this like because you're not in Overwatch League either first season or second season. Like you shouldn't be discouraged, because I'm sure there'll be tons of different, like maybe not the same scale, but it'll still be like leagues and stuff popping up. I'm sure. It'll definitely be like, because Overwatch is just so big and like a great game. So
that's a great segue. I was actually about to ask a question very similar to that. On the show over the last couple of weeks, there's been a pretty common theme of, hey, we didn't make it through Contender Season 0. Contender Season 1 is on the horizon. If you're not playing in World Cup, if you're not in Contender Season 1, what the hell is there to play for? I might as well just stream all day. We've heard that from a number of players. So you just kind of took that and were like, I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to Thailand and join a team. So was this? I'm just curious, like how you eventually ended up getting in touch with your current team. Was it you just exploring every opportunity to find some pro team somewhere in the world? Did they reach out to you? Was it like known within the pro scene that they were looking for teams? Like how did you originally come to meet them?
So I'll go back to where it all started. It started when I was on Splice. And the team disbanded because we were looking to get into Overwatch League, but we couldn't for specific reasons. And after we disbanded, I got approached by Mega Esport pretty much. We had a talk. We were talking about a lot of stuff. We weren't sure, and we need to be looking for players and all of that. So while doing all of that, like still talking to them, I was kind of trialing or testing the waters. I've been playing with Energy. I've been playing with EG. I've been playing with a few lower tier teams as well. I've just been testing my waters and so on. And then after Mega announced that they would be going into Thailand instead of Indonesia, it just clicked for me. Like I get to play in OPC. I get to, just do things for myself instead of just waiting for the right opportunity that may never come, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone's best opportunity would be, okay, I'm just going to join a team that's straight into Overwatch League. Whereas for me, I'll just take what I have right now. I could play in a league, OPC. And I'll go from there. I'll just work on myself, because I know if you're a great player, you'll be in Overwatch League. That's pretty much how it is. So just keep shaping up yourself up, and you'll be where you want to be. That's how you get where you want to be.
It's a great approach. Yeah, great mindset.
Yeah, I mean that was what was in the back of my head every time I heard some players say like, "What's the point of even scrimming or playing or entering any tournaments anymore?" I'm like, you have to get yourself out there. You have to improve your skills.
Exactly. That's the mentality of a champion right there, is what I'm hearing. Yeah, what's the point? I don't even care anymore. Yeah, that's just not what you want to do. That's just not where you're coming from if you actually deserve to be in that league. Like, go do whatever else. Go work at McDonald's or whatever, I
mean, you have to invest time too, guys. Like, you can't – you're not going to get stuff handed to you immediately, all the time, especially in your life. So this is one of those things that the people that put in the work, they will be the ones that are rewarded in the end. And like you said, Graceful, it better be this way. Like the league better be the where the best players in the world are playing in it.
Yeah.
Maybe outside of Korea, but we'll see.
Including, and we'll see. Just as maybe a final, but like just realize as well the amount of time that it might take to really realize that, because if it's, I mean, we have maybe we have 10 teams, 12 teams to start this off. I don't know how many more they're going to announce, like whatever. That's kind of what I'm expecting maybe for season 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's still going to be a lot of great talent out there, and it's going to be up to them to keep, filtering to the surface. And then as more teams are being added, just realize that, there are going to be a lot of great players that are not playing it immediately, but the whole point of the ecosystem is to build a situation where they can and will eventually get up there. So,
and it's one of those critical mass points too. Like right now, getting started is one of the hardest things, right? Just generating momentum with the league But eventually, if the league is, headed towards success and is doing well, is building momentum, then you see these organizations that will just be, obviously showing interest and trying to buy in, and then that will be, I think, a place where the players will just be in super high demand, and that the people that have been working the entire time, they're going to be the ones in the first of the pecking order to be picked up. So
exactly, the grinders.
The grinders, exactly. Not the folks that are like, oh, you guys are interested? Okay, I'm gonna start playing again.
Exactly. They'll just fall behind.
Yeah.
The one thing I'm actually most interested in is the so-called combine.
Yep.
I don't know how it would work.
We still don't know about
it.
Exactly.
Yeah. But like in my head, I had this this funny theory of like, okay, if I get rank 1 or like top 5 every season, I might be like the captain of the combine or something, and I'm just having this like this fail-proof plan. Like, okay, first I'm gonna join a team that has a spot. Okay, if that doesn't work, I'm gonna do this, and then like, and this combine was like, okay, combine is the way out. If you don't have a team, just aim for the ladder right now. And then those funny email. When there was a hype about emails and surveys from Blizzard coming out about Overwatch League?
I'm still waiting for mine. I don't know.
Sorry.
Lost in the
Sorry.
email,
But
yeah.
It'll be there. Don't worry.
I'll go check again.
Those dreams are real, man.
So it'll definitely be fun. I've been grinding a lot. So.
Yeah, the combines. We still have no idea what the combines are actually going to be like. And
I have theories, but
can you imagine? It's just like
I'm pretty sure Blizzard doesn't know yet.
Tracking skills and like snapshots.
I think the combine has essentially already happened behind the scenes, in that there are statistics. Well, I mean, they got these 500 players, right?
Yeah, but that's not a combine, though. That's
or not the 500 players, because way more than 500 players got letters, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. I think that it's more of a metaphorical combine of sorts. That basically the idea of a combine is that organized teams can pick from talented individuals based on their performance. And real idea of a combine is you see that performance live. But in this case, it's just basically pulled from all of your statistics.
So they're curating they're basically Blizzard's just curating information for the team based on just.
That's what I'm thinking, and then then you add to the mix other ways that you can see these players perform, like contenders, Apex even to some extent, but
that's not a combine.
That's
not a combine.
The combined efforts of all of these various leagues. Yeah,
nice wordplay.
That's why I'm making the big bucks.
No, but overall, it's still good for the players, no matter what they're doing. Whether they have a live. I mean, and to be honest, I don't even know what a live combine would be like, anyways. For
a lot of clicking.
I guess so.
So Graceful, excuse my ignorance. When does the season 2 for OPC actually start? Do we have a solid date for that yet?
I know we fly out on the 6th of August.
Okay.
I think the official date might be 13th or 12th or something.
So you're only in Thailand for a couple days, then you're off to Taipei, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's why we've just been focusing on fundamentals, because going too deep into stuff won't work at all, especially since we need to work on our communications.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would imagine communication is the number 1 challenge for you guys right now. Or are you taking
by far?
Maybe you can teach each other how to speak different languages.
You should all learn a different language than anyone else knows, so it's impartial. Yeah, so I think that's probably the best.
Wow, we would not be strong then.
well, it'd be one of those things where it's like, let's go to comms for Mega Thunder, and then nobody understands what.
It's just silence, actually, because no one wants to speak in Dutch,
Yeah,
like all this mixture of languages and stuff.
Or just calm like the Koreans. No.
I mean, that's pretty much how I calm already. That's definitely how I calm already. Like, I also stream, and everyone always laughs at my comms because I'm like way too hype, and I'm like that. Like, I'm 10 times more in tournaments and matches. Monkey, diva, Anna.
You gotta call out
repeating,
targets, man. That's how it goes. Oh man! So you mentioned your teammate Apudo, right? And we got a good look at Apudo during the World Cup this past week.
Yes.
And that he was playing on the Thai team, and most notably he was playing Sombra a ton. On some of the maps. So yeah, talk to us a little bit about Puto. Were you rooting for him the entire time, or obviously you being in Thailand, I'd figure everybody around you is rooting for the Thai team and everything.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Like Oputo has always had a great showing, I would say,
Mhm.
in terms of pretty much every tournament. Always been like very consistent. So we just try to help everybody out with the fundamentals, like I said before.
Mhm.
And we were at an event last night where we had a fan meetup and so on. And obviously Oputo was, the thing,
The
you know what I
thing.
mean?
The
They were the
superstar.
thing. Like,
Right?
but it's also important to not take any credit of the other Thai players who were on the world team, because we also
Yeah.
have like Kurlos, and we had like Titawad and like other players as well, and they're all really good, all of them.
Yeah, I actually
So,
noticed a
sure.
few great Ana plays by Kurlos.
Yeah.
I think throughout that, and I was, because I'm like basically just watching for production value and individual players from regions that I don't know very well. So,
So it's important to not take like any credits of the other players as well, even though like you'd like to, you know how DPS generally gets more, fame because like, oh, they're up in the kill feed, they're the ones doing everything. That's because like the game has so many levels of understanding the game. Like, oh, because if Anna didn't get the peel there, they probably would have lost the fight away. But the only thing people saw was like someone dove and they got a kill. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. But the Thai team had a good showing. I think that the Thai team arguably could have been the fan favorite all weekend. Just hard not to be a fan favorite. Obviously we have Mickey on the team too, but
Mickey.
it's the smiles. It's a lot of the people looking at the cameras and knowing they're on camera, and just a lot of playfulness, right? That the Thai team was like that last
now.
That's true, right? But they ended up having even a good series against Rogue. I think that it was a competitive series, even though the score might not have showed. I mean, they had a great start. The Thai team won the first game and almost won the second game too.
Definitely.
Before Rogue, obviously woke up and started getting things back together there. But I think overall, the Thai team should be proud of how they did.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think we said this probably before the World Cup even started, but I think their group might actually be the hardest group in the entire World Cup. Obviously, you've got France, who, they're rogue. So they're amazing.
France. Their name
Denmark
is France.
has lots of great players.
Denmark had a good
Even
showing,
Argentina had a pretty good showing. Like, I was actually pretty impressed with some of the play that we were seeing on the Argentina squad. So they actually made it out of the group of death. I really think so. That this was probably the hardest group. And they did in the end lose to China 3-0.
Yeah.
But I mean, major props to them. I think it's the second year in a row where Thailand was not only the fan favorite, but also turned a lot of heads with how well they played.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's the whole point, right? It's the whole point of this World Cup is to really showcase it. And Mickey was the big success story last year from this. Just him obviously being picked up by Envy because of how he performed at the World Cup. So it'd be awesome to see if that type of story happens, or you guys just parlay it into Mega just parlays it into something amazing.
That's what I was going to say. I think the success story that I'm expecting to happen, predictions coming in right here, is that Mega is indeed the success story coming out of this. So,
all right,
called it in before.
Good deal.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited to watch it now.
Yeah,
feels good, man.
Totally. Well, Graceful, I know you got to take off here, just given you guys have a really, really busy schedule. But thanks for joining us and getting a chance to talk. Hopefully next time we can have you like maybe a little bit longer and you can hang out with us because it's fun talking.
For
to you.
sure, I would definitely love that. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
and I hope you guys enjoyed the rest of the talk.
Cool. Yeah. Any shout outs you want to do? Any where can people find you? Like, where's your Twitter and all that good stuff?
I have the Twitter at Graceful OW and the same thing for my Twitch, Graceful OW. So if you want to just come by and hang. Right now I won't be streaming a lot because obviously prepping for OPC comes before streaming. But definitely check out my Twitter for like posts and just keep looking at it. We'll have fun.
All right. Sounds good, man. But
thank you very much for having me.
Yep, take care, buddy.
Talk to you next time.
All right, bye. Okay, so I have a screenshot of him. Okay, I'm gonna have to adjust this real quick. I have a screenshot of him that actually looks like he's actually there, but guys, he's really not there. So you're gonna have to ignore that for now. But
no, it's okay.
No, stop.
No,
I'll fix this.
Anyway.
Yeah. It's anyways. Why don't we talk about World Cup a little bit while I'm fixing this? So last week we just kind of showed the results, right? We had China and Rogue obviously moving forward from the groups, and China looked pretty dominant. I have to say, I actually think China looked more dominant than Rogue did. Rogue was, there were competitive matches, and you can say that, some of it had to do with the teams that they played against, like Thailand, Denmark, and and how they did, or Norway. But I think it had more to do with just Rogue just not playing to the capabilities that we expect from them, given that they are the favorite in this tournament.
Yeah, I think Rogue came out a little hot-headed. I don't know if that's the right word, because confidence would be actually probably more accurate. I don't even think it's necessarily an ego thing, but they know the amount of force that they have to exert on their opponents to find victory, and I think they're very intentionally not exerting everything that they have in order to, then they have stuff that they can pull out potentially moving forward, and they definitely had moments where they would start to lose a little bit, and then suddenly you could almost feel like the momentum was picking up. All righty, guys, let's do it now. China, on the other hand, I mean, they were just on fire the entire time, and so it is kind of hard to judge between the two. But they, I mean, obviously have a lot of strong players as well.
The thing about Rogue is I personally feel like they've been on a slow and steady descent from like how dominant they were.
Mm-hmm.
I think the main reason for that is that they've been playing this what we think of as standard dive comp now. They've been playing that since before everyone else was. They were really, really, really good at it. Their team comp was always built around Nox, Winston and Nico Genji and dive soon, always on the tracer. But now everyone is used to this. Even playing in high masters, like everyone plays this. Everyone's used to this up and down the board. So I think it's natural to see that teams are starting to learn how to play against that style a little bit more. And I watched quite a bit of the tournament. I didn't watch every game, but I heard one of my friends was telling me that Rogue from time to time was kind of messing around and pulling out weird compositions here and there, which I'm not super surprised by. Like, yeah, I think you're exactly right. Like, I think it actually makes sense for them to try and guard their strategies and play weird off-kilter stuff. A, to test new things, but B, to try not to show their hand too much. So, I mean, I'm not fully surprised that Rogue struggled a little bit more than everyone kind of thought that they would going into this group and the World Cup in general, given everything we just talked about.
Yeah, and I think Thailand and Denmark were really strong contenders, so to speak, in that group. And China, I mean, Norway was fairly strong, but they were the only other team that I would have had any hopes for coming out of that group.
Yeah.
But I think we have to, before we move on from China, we have to talk about Eileen, because in the matches that I was able to actually watch and pay attention to the game and not just the production value, man, he just went off. He was nuts.
Yeah. Eileen, I think Eileen was one of the highlights for sure.
Yeah.
Who else? Some of the other players. Craigie.
Undead did really well.
Craigie had some good games too. I didn't even know who he was before that, so I was like, wow, he's good.
Yeah, Craigie. Craigie, I've seen, he's been in a bunch of events, and even Fisher as well.
Yeah,
I think Denmark was playing above their station in some ways. They really came out firing on all cylinders. I was watching them versus France, and that was a fun match to watch.
That was a great match, yeah.
Yeah, that was one where I did feel like France was coming online a little bit throughout that, but the Denmark had a lot of good players, top-tier players. The thing is, I mean, it's Rogue. Like, what are you gonna do? So
it's one of those things where it's like, whenever Soon all of a sudden wants to land all his pulse bombs, he just does, right? And then it just like wipes them out at the whatever timing that he just decides to do it, or AKM just decides to turn it on, for that period, and that's when they end up coming back. And in this particular case, it seemed to happen at the end of games a lot, where they just kind of saved it at the very, very end. But yeah, you can tell it's just night and day at times with that team. But it's good. It keeps it exciting. I mean, it keeps us excited at least, right? And I think even just the casting and all that stuff, it was fun. It was definitely a lot of fun hearing the guys getting excited whenever some of these things were happening, like full pushes in overtime, and crazy things like that.
Man.
Those were actually happening, So
yeah, then the casters they've been bringing the hype for sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What have you been thinking about? Let's talk about the production since we've been talking
Production. Oh boy,
About oh boy.
can of worms there.
Okay. Well, let's start
No.
with the casting. What do you guys think about the casting?
I'll let you go first.
I mean, sure. We already. I've now in 2 separate episodes talked about how annoyed I am that Jason Kaplan isn't on the list of casters.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
that's it.
Give,
Everyone else is basically there who deserves to be there, and the quality of the casting is really, really great. Man, when the first day started and the broadcast first started, and you got to hear Monty and Doa take you under their wing, it was just like, we've arrived. It's esports time. Like, they're just such pros, man. They know how to make an entertaining broadcast, and let's be real, that is what is important here. They break the game down, but they just bring you a very entertaining show. I enjoyed the hell out of it, and I've actually been a Wolf fan since way back in the
I was
StarCraft
going
days.
to bring up Wolf.
I think he's like the protege of like Tasteless and Artosis out there in Korea. I think he did phenomenal in StarCraft, and I didn't even know that he was casting Overwatch until this season of Apex. In fact, I don't think he was casting Overwatch until this season of Apex, but he brought it. He really did. I enjoy Wolf casting this game a lot.
Yeah, him and Achilles also seem to mesh really well. I think that's been an X factor with them. I actually casted with Achilles like a long time ago for some community event, and then before he hit it big, and now I'm still waiting for that to happen.
What game?
But League of Legends.
Yeah, I was
actually.
about to say, isn't he? He's a league caster, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
We're actually there's I want you to count all the former league casters here.
There's
no,
a
but
lot,
I first of all, so I wrote a blog actually about the production value, and a little bit, it's a really abstract as to like what I think that what they're trying with World Cup means for the future of esports. But I think you hit it on the head, Fishstix, with the entertainment value is really what they were going for. They wanted to make sure that it was crisp and clean and like the top quality that they possibly could. And so like Golden Boy obviously is just amazing. He is really just a pleasure to watch. And I really hope to actually just like work near him, not even necessarily with him, just like see what his process looks like so I can learn some stuff. And then you've got Zoe and Seltzer and Flame as the analyst for week 1 there, and or weeks the first leg. And I mean, Flame, I think he exceeded my expectations.
Yeah, I thought Flame did excellent.
And like I really like Flame. He just doesn't have as much on-air experience because like Zoe and Seltzer, they have a ton of on-air experience, which is why they were chosen, because they knew no matter what, they're going to push out something that is going to resemble a very high level of entertainment, and they did. And Flame, he is maybe that extra analytical person there with the insider information, so to speak, and he also presented it really well. I'm really excited to rewatch some of the VODs here from Australia to see how like Jamerson is doing. Because I'm really excited to see him up there as well.
So far, I think he's doing fine. Yeah, I mean, it's a little different feel, compared to having Rachel there, and but yeah, I agree too. I definitely like how Alex hosts. The way Alex hosts or Golden Boy hosts is a very organic way of hosting versus this very professional feel, that sort of thing, and he does a really, really good job with it. So I definitely like that atmosphere. And then with the casters, one of the things that I liked about it is that Doa and Monty are like the standard for us in Overwatch, but I do like how there's such a different energy whenever each duo comes in, and I think that's where we're going to end up, right, with the Overwatch League. There's going to be duos that are going to be together every single time. We're not going to be mixing and matching like we have seen depending on what event it is so far in Overwatch. And I think that's good, because that's how football is, that's how basketball is. They have these like, who was it? It was like Pat Summerall and Brent Musburger for a long time, or like those kind of duos, right? For however long. And now it's Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson now, or whoever, right? So, and then Tom Bream, right? Or whoever the actual host caster is. So I think that's good. I think that, and I like it too. Like it creates this different or more. It creates this energy that happens because. Like whenever Achilles gets on, there's like a ton of energy, right? But then when Doa and Monty get back on, there's just this nice, even kind of analytical and comedic type of feel to
a different flow to it.
Yeah, there's a different flow to it. So I do like that. I hope they continue doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that they have been slowing things down just a little bit, but I'd like to see a little bit more energy on the analyst desk from what I've been able to watch today, but they've been overall keeping it up pretty well.
Yeah.
I will say the ZP and Uber duo is
Oh
like,
my God, yes.
never stop yelling. Ah!
You know what's crazy is Uber is the quiet one. Like when I'm listening to both of them, Uber's trying to keep it like even and
Oh, yeah.
you know, just spicy this and spicy that, right? So it's
Oh, man.
awesome.
Yeah, ZP when he gets going, man. I remember there was this one specific broadcast for Contenders where I don't know, we were like trying to figure out like what drugs he was on or like how much caffeine he had intook, I guess. But he was literally like just like popping around the studio. Yeah, let's get some Overwatch, and you can see how that manifests.
It's just
itself.
caffeine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no. He pushes himself to the limit. No, I love
That's
that guy.
cool, man. It's definitely cool. So one thing I'm gonna have to say, at least from a critique, and you know, the whole point of this, guys, is not just to complain. We want to have the product as good as possible. I actually liked the desk. I liked how they set up the desk, how, you know, stuff's going on in the background, and I kind of like what they've done here with Sydney the same way, where the crowd's in the background, the stage is on the over behind them too. I don't like the stage at all. Like especially with Sydney, like it looks clean, and I get it. You know, I get why they did it that way. But it's like I can't even tell what team's on what side. Like whenever you show me the stage,
There's big flags, is what you're looking for.
Yeah,
there.
I mean, there's like a blue and a red light, and then all I see are monitors, and I just see a long row of monitors, like, you know, and that's the staging of it, and they're far from the crowd too. Like there's like a lot of things that I think that are just a bit off there. I mean, it looks nice, it looks professional, but there are, you know. It doesn't matter if it's not practical from a visual standpoint.
Yeah, well, and from a storytelling standpoint, so one of my passion points with broadcasting is that you're like trying to tell a story, and what you're describing is certain elements of like, well, what team is playing? Like, I want to be able to watch and immediately jump into that. And so, and I'm not even saying that I necessarily think this about the set because I haven't thought about it terribly much.
Yeah.
But yeah, you want to be able to say, oh, that's that team that's playing, you know, that I just watched do this or this, or I've seen them in the past, or so having an easily identifiable way of doing that. And I think that there could be some minor modifications that could make that happen.
Yeah.
It's also a little bit different, maybe a different focus because of the nationalities. I think the flag is like the only real tie to the teams that they use.
Yeah.
But
well, I mean, if you're going to present it, like you need to present like what team is what, you know, like on stage, just visually on the camera, right? And I mean, they've been trying all kinds of things, especially today, you know, with all these different camera angles. So it's cool that they have them all. It's just right now, I feel like they're just using them like at random times. You know, it's like So
and they're figuring a lot of stuff out. I don't know who's doing the production here exactly, who's all involved, but because I know that the wide shot you could get the flags. But that's the only thing that the only real shot that you get to see that. And so in the close-ups and stuff, like
where
it's in front of the teams.
You mean like in the row of like these monitor
right
looking
in front
things?
of the monitors,
like in the stage, but that's far from the actual desks themselves.
No, on the desks. It's like the front of the desks. I wish it was on right now. I'd take a
okay, because I could have. Okay, I didn't see it if it was.
Maybe it hasn't been the whole time because who knows? I just remember looking at one wide shot and seeing it and thinking about that. But even like things like close-up shots, I've been looking at the player jerseys and stuff to try to figure out who I'm watching and who I'm looking at.
Yeah.
And so there's a little things where you could really accentuate who's who by maybe even putting stuff behind the players, like a backdrop.
Backdrop would be
little
good.
Things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, Ben. What do you think?
It does look clean, though.
I mean, I didn't pay too close attention to how the sets looked, but I will. God, one of these days, Chris, I'm going to make a 10-minute long YouTube video or Twitch VOD about all of my thoughts about camera work in Overwatch because the production value, people keep getting better at it, and I actually know a lot of people that are doing the camera work at World Cup. One of the guys was Imagine, who I had to do the production for my first ever tournament way back in the day. So I'm super happy to see him succeeding. But I still have a couple gripes about how third-person camera is used exactly, when it's used, when it's not used. And I just need to make a video and break it down. I'm not really good at
It's
putting all my thoughts
complicated,
together
though.
and like
It's not
doing all
easy.
these, but
It's not
you really
easy.
have to that would be an intense VOD as far as like prep goes to like lay out all the
yeah,
different scenarios.
I need to write down like a really long bulleted list. But the biggest thing for me, and I've said this before on the show, is use third person to show as much of the action as possible. You want to be cinematic whenever you can be, but being cinematic should never, and I mean never, ever be at the expense of showing you the actual content of the game.
Yeah.
It should never be at the expense. So I'm tired of the slow sweeping shots. Zoom all the way out. Come up from a bird's eye view. Stop showing at at a shallow angle where you can only see a small amount of the battlefield. It looks kind of cool, but it doesn't really look like. As a player, I'm just getting frustrated. I'm like, I want to see. I saw a guy go off that way. Show where he went.
Yeah, I wish you could see me like on the analyst desk when the casters are casting and like contenders, and like the camera is like looking down, and then the players run underneath the camera like off screen, and I'm just like, I'm doing this like I could actually see. Yeah, that's actually feedback that I was able to provide to the contenders observers, because they're coming in and they're like trying to make the most beautiful shot possible. I'm like, you need to balance that with really following that action and don't. And I think the thing the term I use is like, don't be afraid to quick pan, because they want it to look like a consistent pan, which is by itself it's good. Like that is great.
No, there's reason for that.
It's a good quality, but not at the expense of missing it. And I think that from what I've seen in World Cup, they definitely have made some improvements with that. I noticed they're using a lot more. Because that's like free cam, and then you've got third person. I still not sure how I feel about third person. I actually kind of like it on Genji Blades.
Oh, I love third person.
I'll tell you where I like third person.
Yeah.
I like third person. There's a function. I did a bit of observing way back in the day, so I know kind of how it works. There's a function where if you're in third person and you want to go into one person's point of view, you can actually point the cursor at them, right click, and then you go into third person. And then you can go into first person. So you can basically like the camera like zips around to their back, and then you can go first person. That's how I really wish observers were using.
Yeah, that'd be great, dude. Because then that's not
third person.
So because the third person wouldn't be
It's
jittering.
less jarring.
It wouldn't jitter either, right? If it found the tracer.
Jarring.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
We should totally do that.
Because there's a continuity to it. You are moving with that, and that's my biggest gripe with first person, like swapping back and forth between players. Is I don't necessarily have the context for what now is going on, and especially quickly doing that when you're switching every 3 to 6 seconds from player to player, first person. I'm like, okay, now wait, now where am I? Who am I? Oh, okay, here we are. No, now we're going to somebody else. And for me as a player, I can pick up on that honestly pretty quickly as to where we are. But if Overwatch League is trying to expand the horizons for viewership base and trying to get to people that are casual players, maybe not used to spectating Overwatch, for when someone first tunes into that first Owl broadcast, I don't want that those guys, this is weird, I can't really understand what's going on.
I think that particular problem it's either one of two things. It's either getting more experience and not because I think a lot of the jumping aspects sometimes has to do with people making a mistake with staying on a camera too long, or they jump to the wrong person and they should have just stayed back, so they jump to and then from, and those are just mistakes. Or it's just like you need to use a different vantage point just altogether, and just a better technique. So I'm not sure which one it is exactly.
Yeah, it's a little bit of both.
It's probably one or the other. The other thing I would say is that picture in picture, at least what I've been seeing within them using it. What's cool about so far in Sydney is that it's clear that they have been putting things in place. Like there is a point or an objective cam, like they would flash to it, in the lunar colony every once in a while, and then there's nobody
cool.
there.
I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, there was
nice.
nobody there a couple times they did it, but they at least have that, right? That they can actually go there and see. So that's actually in place. But they would use picture in picture like during different shots of the gameplay, but you can't see anything. You can't really do anything.
It is hard. I'm really passionate about picture in picture because I think there's a lot of untapped potential there, and potentially even split screen. Only because sometimes the picture in picture is too small. Still haven't figured a lot of this out.
Though. But that's not enough real estate, man. It's tough.
Yeah, but the time they used picture in picture that I just saw even today was on second 66. and there's like the corner where it loops around.
Yeah.
And so you'll get fights that are happening on either side.
Yeah.
And so what they did was they had the picture-in-picture as the wide shot of like, okay, now you can kind of tell what everything is going on. And then the first person was the primary. And I think that playing around with that might be helpful. But I actually think that picture-in-picture and other multi-view possibilities exist in control maps, because some of those are so difficult to get all of the possible views that you really need to, especially ones where the point's in an enclosed area and the fight moves back and forth. So I'd be curious to see how Blizzard approaches those.
I think that would be good, and I think most of the way people are looking at picture-in-picture is to provide an alternate cam. I think the other thing that you could do with it is just help the storytelling of like the moment. So if, let's just say, the timer's running out, on a control map, and the other team's like trying to rush out of the spawn, like show that picture-in-picture of them like actually coming out of the spawn. And we saw that a couple times on full screen tonight. And I thought that was actually a cool angle. Like use that like for the picture-in-picture, like, and building up to that. Yeah.
Kind of like what's the context coming into this next fight,
Right, because the actual details aren't as important. You don't have to see like every little battle that's going on in that tiny real estate. So I think these are just suggestions, just to help make things better. Clearly they've at least facility wise they've created more and more, and it's just a matter of like how you use it at this point. So anyways, getting back to, I guess, Sydney, unless you guys have any last things about the production you want to talk about.
Just one last thing. It's only tangentially related.
Okay.
Chris.
Yeah.
How many esports events have you watched in China that have just been an absolute train wreck, a shit show of epic proportions?
I can't even.
This is the first esports event I've seen run in China that had really no significant issues. Okay, there was
APAC was good,
some lag issues.
Yeah, a little.
Okay, actually, you're right. You're right.
Actually,
I didn't.
Dude, come on.
You're right. You're actually right. I for some reason completely forgot APAC existed. But like 98% of every Overwatch or esport event I've ever watched in China has had disaster.
It is.
Remember Spider?
Yes.
Remember that?
Yes.
Only
That
OGs
terrible.
will remember.
Oh my God.
Anyway,
terrible.
so that was good at least.
Yeah, and true. They're getting better. The production in China is definitely getting better, but yeah, there's definitely a different standard over there. Okay, well, anyways, let's talk about Sydney. Let's talk about the groups in Sydney, because we didn't really get a chance to really go through who's playing and whatnot. So let me bring it up here real quick.
Yeah.
And oops, that's not the right. No, actually, yeah. Let me just move it down here. Okay, so we've got, obviously they're already playing. We actually have some results already. Australia 4-0 over Italy. That being the first match of the night. It looks like Sweden and Portugal are playing right now. Sweden up 1-0. Let's
I actually have an update on that if you
Okay,
like.
sure.
It's actually
tied
1-1.
1-1.
1-1.
What?
Yeah.
Portugal?
Dude, man.
Well, and so let's talk about that then, because like going into Group C, Sweden probably the favorite if you been paying attention to anything.
No question. Yeah.
But Australia actually, even though I'm more of a fan of Western Overwatch, just because I have to live in that world, so that's where all my focus goes. But Australia apparently actually has some. They are favored to potentially be second at least in that group. But Portugal also has some pretty good players. I mean, you got a couple of Laser Kitten players there, and so they would be maybe the dark horse here. I definitely don't expect them to get better than
Come
third.
on, that's an all-star
I
team,
didn't expect them
on
to
Sweden,
I didn't expect them to take a map off Sweden.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
think about the pressure that is on the Sweden team as we speak. If they actually lose here, that would put them in such a rough spot, because then, they're in a dangerous spot. that would be nuts.
And I'm not gonna lie, I think Misfits have been on the downtick a little bit, and of course they've got 4 members from them, and so it could be partially a little bit of synergy issues maybe, or just not quite being prepared necessarily, a little bit of overconfidence. But yeah, Portugal coming out and actually being able to find one map is pretty startling.
Yeah,
maybe they're roguing it out, guys.
This.
Just hiding some stuff. We're gonna go to that excuse for all the teams. Maybe we go to that same excuse for Sweden.
So people have been nicknaming this French squad Frog, as in like French rogue. I think there's also a frog pun in there too. It's like a triple entendre. But
it works.
If Rogue is Frog, then Australia is
Oh, no.
Australia? Because they're blank esports is the name of their team.
Sure,
Oh,
sure.
man.
So this is,
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but this is the only other team that I'm aware of in Overwatch,
Yeah.
or sorry, in the Overwatch World Cup that actually this is the exact roster that they play
Yeah.
with outside of World Cup.
I'm looking at Vietnam, and I did not know about them at all, but apparently they're a part of a team. I don't know. They're not a known team. But
Part
yeah,
or
I would agree.
A full
Yeah.
team. Like,
Well, that's what it says. They all have the same team logo next to them. I have not done any research in this area. But no, Australia is, as far as I know as well, the only other team that 100% is from another roster. And
all right. I mean,
the analyst desk was talking about how the expectations coming into this group was that they might be able to perform fairly well.
it's tough being the favorite
Oh.
sometimes, guys. Definitely.
Tao in chat says Taiwan is the Flash Wolves team. I wasn't aware of that. Thank you, Tao.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, that's definitely good. All right, so we'll have to see how Sweden plays out here. No excuses for those guys. They need to win. I mean,
Yeah.
like if they don't win, I mean, we none of us should be giving excuses for them. 'cause
Well,
that's
yeah,
like-
if they win, then man, I got to give it to Australia coming out of this
Yeah.
one because
yeah,
they already played very strong against Italy. Now, Italy not necessarily the litmus test that you want to use, but
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to
Anyway,
see.
Group D, I guess we could talk about if you
yeah.
want.
Group D, and we got Finland, Japan, Spain, and Vietnam. Finland being the
This seems pretty clear cut to me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Finland seems to be the favorite here. Spain second, I would say.
Yep.
I don't know too much about Japan and Vietnam.
Yeah, that's the thing is I
so,
don't
mean,
know. Yeah.
I do know that Portugal's now up 2-1.
Oh my
Gosh.
gosh!
What?
Wow!
That's nuts.
Oh man!
All right. Well, I'm sorry, guys.
Okay,
I got to
we,
go.
we might have to wrap up this show like
yeah.
really quickly so we can watch this.
Alrighty.
Oh, it's
Anyway,
just
in that
crazy.
case, it's Finland,
so,
Finland,
wow.
Spain. Because Spain, we've got Harry Hook, Neptuno, Toxican. I'm actually really
No,
excited to see
Spain is
Broma.
sick. Like,
yeah.
Spain is pretty sick.
They did better than people expected last year because not a lot, like Neptuno wasn't really, hadn't really
Yes.
played on any teams yet. Everyone's like, oh, Neptuno, he's like some old Counter-Strike 1.6 pro. Like, he's
Right.
probably going to be good. Then he turned out to be
Actually-
amazing. But if you look at this roster, Harry Hook, Dak, Neptuno, Toxican, Broma, Swinghaven, every one of these players has been on a top 5
Yeah.
team at some point.
Yeah. Actually, looking at this a little
They
bit
could
more
beat
and just
Finland,
thinking about
actually.
how RIP Rest in Pajamas has been playing recently, I would not be surprised if Spain actually comes out on top. That
Yeah,
I mean,
they could.
I still, if I was a betting man, it would be close because I think that most people are favoring Finland here. But yeah, with the players that are on Spain, if they can get any synergy at all, they are gonna be able to
Gonna be
utilize
tight.
it very well.
It's definitely going to be tight. I mean, I was hoping personally to see a Sweden versus Finland rematch from last year's third place match because that was arguably the best match of the entire World Cup last year. Just watching those two go at each other, but yeah, Spain's going to definitely make a run for it. So we could see. I don't know if it's an upset or not, given that we've just been talking about the players, but at least for the fans' eyes, it might be an upset here.
Yeah.
But we might even see an upset in Group C. So we'll have to see what happens at the end of this night. But okay. Well, anyways, I want to wrap up, I guess, Overwatch World Cup for now. Definitely exciting. You can go if you want to, watch both the show and watch some Overwatch World Cup. You can go to twitch.tv/playoverwatch right now because it's going on.
I got to say one more thing before we
one
move
more
on.
thing. Okay.
Which is, and you could probably guess where I'm going, just based off me. But the viewership has been great. It's not so awesome right now, but during the last group stage, I saw 70,000 concurrent viewers.
Oh, did you? Wow.
About 40K, about 45K on the mainstream. The French stream had 17,000 viewers alone. The Thai stream had another 12,000 viewers at peak. So
Okay.
this is just really encouraging. I mean, maybe some momentum from OWL announcement and that stuff. But really, I just think the World Cup is just such a phenomenal marketing tool. Bring in every fan from every part of the world. It's just great. So that's been awesome to see.
But one thing I did forget to mention was just how cool it was that the French press and wasn't the government?
Government, yeah.
I
Oh,
mean,
yeah,
they were
yeah.
totally, promoting the Rogue or rooting for the Rogue team. So that's awesome. That's very, very awesome.
Yeah.
So we could get a little bit more of that. I can't see President Trump saying anything about the U.S. team.
I
but-
don't think we know. Well,
I don't think I want him
I know,
to.
yeah, I'm
so-
We know
not
he
sure.
knows how to use technology. At the very least, he knows how to use Twitter. But that's really all we know. I don't even know if he knows how to go to
Oh,
Twitch.com.
man.
So it's hard.
Okay, all right. One last thing about the Overwatch League is that South Korea announced that they're going to be doing 8 show matches against some of the Korean teams that we all know. You know, Korean teams like Six is going to be, I think, one of the upcoming ones. So yeah, I think South Korea is going to have plenty of practice against some very, very good competition, and it'll probably be pretty entertaining to watch too if they show it.
Yeah.
So definitely tune into that schedule. Okay, I think the next bit I had was that Noah Winston did a video that was, I mean, it wasn't necessarily like the biggest news or anything like that, but he did mention maybe 1 or 2 interesting things in terms of you know, how he's approaching it and just, you know, Immortals being in LA and all that good stuff. So the first thing that he mentions is that there are no plans to change the Immortals roster. I mean, he didn't word it that it was for sure not going to be any changes, right?
Yeah.
But he doesn't see any
No.
foreseeable huge changes to the roster, which
Yeah.
means the core will probably be the same.
I was watching another show and they were talking about this, and
the
I was so
Swans,
frustrated
Yeah.
because they kept saying that, like, oh, they're going to stick with this roster. Of course, a bad idea, or they, you know, well, they I think that is exact words.
How's
Yeah,
that
there's
a
not going to
bad
be any
idea?
major shakeups. Or, you know, oh, they have to bring in more Koreans, or yeah, doubt it. I can't remember what they were saying, but the whole thing is they already changed up their roster quite a bit. They have already gone through this shakeup, so that now going into Overwatch League, they don't have to do that, and they're just ahead of the game. So they like got that out of the way. They shook up their
Yeah.
roster,
And
and now they're saying, well, now there's not going to be any more shakeups. So, yeah, I don't think that specifically said very much. I think that I'm still interested to see how where hyped lives on this team. I think that'd be the one remaining question mark.
Really?
But they've already put together a team that you can tell they were looking for Overwatch League with that.
Yeah, and they've been performing well too. You know, just because they lost to Rogue, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're not good enough yet. That just means that they just need more experience on high pressure situations against crazy good competition.
Yeah, and that's the other interesting thing. So tracking them back months, right before I think they beat Cloud9 in NGE, which was like one of the big time. That was the first time I realized, okay, this Immortal squad's a little interesting. And then Cloud9 went over to Korea, and then they did all right in that, and I think they won NGE. Then they won the
dominated
Overwatch
NGE.
Carbon Series, even though they had not been playing very well the entire Carbon Series, but they won the finals. And then you get to Contenders, and well, I mean, they honestly were just dominant the entirety of Contenders. But yeah, look out for them, because I feel like they are very calculated in how they're doing this, and really putting in their resources into the right places, timeline-wise, where they're going to build, and then when it's most important, now we're going to strike, and then they're going to go through another build phase. And right now we're seeing them in a build phase, and the fact that they've been able to be as strong as they have been, I mean, they're always going to be playing to win, but the whole organization is moving towards something that's even bigger. So they're going to be a force to be reckoned with, I think.
Yeah. It's one of those litmus tests do where it's just like we need to see how they do the next time we see them. If they can perform well again, then I think that we can be safe in saying Immortals is headed in a very, very good direction, and you know, maybe clearing that first hurdle, you know, that first hurdle to try to really get into contending with the top teams, because we have this kind of hurdle in the NA, right? It's just like these teams just keep swapping back and forth who's doing well this month.
Yeah.
And if Immortals can just be consistent there, I think that'd be cool. Another thing too that I think oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think they're going to be the best NA team in the first season of Overwatch League. So I don't, and this is not knowing what the other teams look like, but based on what I've seen, unless there's some other super teams that form, I don't know of any specific roster in NA that I think is going to do better over the long term, because all the other rosters have kind of gone up and down a little bit.
Yep.
You know, Rogue would be one that has been largely up, and if they can adapt to some of the meta changes, I think that they've got the talent to do that. But yeah, I think that Immortals is making a lot of good choices, and this video is an interesting example of kind of where their mentality is.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And having just one little bit too, which is nothing again that was that surprising, but I think Noah just talking about that, esports needs to be pushed to a live experience, no matter what esports it is. It has to be a live experience for it to actually reach, a very, very pinnacle, just some high threshold in terms of business and sport, right? So I think having it be in these big stadiums. I mean, we have to get Overwatch in these big stadiums, not small arenas. Like we need to get them in big stadiums, for it to be,
Well,
that
and
spectator type of
and
thing.
even outside of that, even just having that consistent local presence of outside of stadiums, because I don't think they're going to do that season one. Maybe towards
No, they won't probably do it season
final.
one,
But even season one, you're going to have this local presence of now this team. They can cater to their community in some different ways. So now they can play and maybe just invite local people to come watch them play. And they're playing online, so their opponents are in a different state. But then they can have little signings afterwards and. They can go to other community-related events, maybe even partner up with local partners like other traditional sports teams potentially. And whereas you haven't really had that focus in any other esports, you've had, well, honestly, a lot of Southern California, attention there.
Right,
and then, and so I think that that's really the focus here is. And then now you're building up to going into stadiums with this huge fan base of people that you already have. Not to mention the people that are just going to be following you in general. And you can build a different brand that way than other esports orgs have been able to in other esports.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, why don't we go into some shout outs just to some iTunes folks that have been leaving us some nice ratings and some nice words, which is something that's very helpful for the show because we are on all the audio channels, so iTunes, Google Play, and SoundCloud. And whenever we do get some ratings, or at least from folks that like the show or whatever, it helps with people finding the overview whenever they're searching for Overwatch and trying to find Overwatch podcasts. So I'd like to give a shout out just to the few folks that do each and every week. So Lovejoy91 and Jay Authentic, I think, or
Aesthetic.
Aesthetic. Aesthetic. Oh my gosh, reading is tough. So Jay Aesthetic, thank you so much, guys, for doing that. And if you guys also listen to the show on your iPhone or iPad or whatever on the way to work or when you're working out and want to help us out, you can just log on to iTunes and just drop us a rating. That'd be really, really cool of you. Okay, well, let's see what else we got here. Let's just go through the news real quick, and then maybe if we have some time, we can get to maybe a juicy topic if we can get to it. So team news. This is some from like the last 2 weeks. We've been missing team news or event news each week just because there's so much other stuff to do with or talk about. So real quick. So as Jaru joins Envision, which I don't think is a big surprise given that he's been playing with them, for a while now. EG drops their Overwatch team, which kind of surprising. And given that Graceful subbed in for them during Overwatch Contenders, I guess the writing was maybe on the wall anyways, after the Contenders. But Movie Star Writer also drops their Overwatch team. So, what do you guys think of that? Just both of those teams, just your typical, probably not going to be in Season 1 of Overwatch League. So what's the point of having a team?
A little bit. I'm not 100% sure. I think Movistar might not be leaving the space entirely. They basically said that I'm not sure. They kind of said that they were. And here's the thing: Movistar Riders have been performing fairly well.
Yeah.
Overall, and so that was. I mean, they've already made it into Contender Season 1. So I don't know why they would have done that. But I guess they haven't, because I think EG specifically said like, "Hey, we're just getting out of Overwatch," is kind of what they said. To me, all of this means is, if you're not going to get into Overwatch League, if as an organization specifically, you either hope to have a good enough team to sell or to get players, offload players, and if they're not good enough, then there's no reason to keep putting that money in necessarily. At least not for now, because we don't know what that tier 2 100% is going to look like. As far as just monetarily. Yeah. And then, same thing with Movistar Riders. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah.
It's just confusing that the Movistar Riders side. EG, not confusing. Actually, the players didn't want to play together anymore. It was the players' decision, actually, in that case, to disband the team altogether. I'm not sure if the Movistar Riders squad is sticking together and looking for another sponsor. They just lost their sponsor, which is weird considering they made it into Contenders. Right. And then I brought this up in a previous show, but saying, "Oh, we can't make it into OW League," to me isn't enough of a reason to really justify something like that. Because again, why do you have a team in Gears of War? Why do you have a team in all these other esports that plenty of esports teams have rosters, but there's no hope of like some god tier league in the long run. They just want the exposure of the streams, of the playing in the tournaments. So this one didn't make a lot of sense to me, but who knows? There's probably a lot in the back end that we don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like I don't even know, and I probably would know more honestly, just because they are in contenders, they're in my event, and so we're I think we're still figuring out like what that looks like because there's a question of like who owns that spot in contenders, and I think strictly speaking, Movistar and Org owns it, but I don't think they're want to field a team or anything like that. So whether they would sell it or I think they just probably give it to the players and then just let them play.
Sure, it has to be associated with players, right?
Man, that's just drama asking to happen right here.
And I think it's being managed actually really well because as soon as I heard that the announcement, I'm like, oh no. Oh, this is going to be a huge thorn in the side. Why? But it's been pretty cool. I mean, all the players and the org have all been really good about that so far. As far as I know, I'm not heading up that communication, but big shout out to Wojtek for helping me out with that.
Well, it's good to hear. At least they're being very cordial about it and figuring out the right thing to do. Next bit of news is Apex Season 4 teams have been finalized. And, the biggest thing here is that there are no Western teams in the list of the teams this season. This is the first season where we have no Western teams involved. And a lot of that obviously has to do with Overwatch contenders and Overwatch League just generally. But, the list is great too. I mean, you want to watch, again, top level Overwatch and some of the best in the world. You're still going to be watching Apex, but I thought that was pretty interesting. What do you guys think? No Western teams.
It's gonna hurt their viewership, man. I mean, when Envious played, they had a huge spike in viewership. Maybe the OGN TV ratings are so huge that it's like not even a blip on their radar. But I don't think so. I think adding like 30,000-40,000 viewers because Envious is playing is a really big deal. So
yeah.
I wonder if Envious just declined. Go ahead.
I think Apex is going to serve Korea like Contenders is serving NA and EU. I think it's going to supposedly, because here's the thing is we already know that there's an Overwatch League team in Korea. So obviously it's at least a different tier than Overwatch League. I don't know like exactly what that's going to look like, but I think that probably they specifically wanted to split Korea off from NA and EU for this one and make sure that these kind of tier 2 leagues that are feeding in from their respective regions.
But this is kind of strange, though, right? Because when we talk about Overwatch contenders, and I know we've been, there's obviously NA and EU as regions or whatever, and that's supposed to help and feed just Overwatch League generally. But Overwatch League is all the regions right now. So, I don't know. It's kind of strange how it's broken up into regions. There's going to be Korean teams, but I mean, there's only going to be one city, right? How many cities can you actually have in Korea, right? Like the Korean players are going to be in all kinds of teams, but there's only going to be one in Korea. So it's kind of strange, right?
And here's the other thing about that is, and I don't know what this is going to look like, because that's a very valid question, is like, well, there's a lot of cities in Korea, or there's a lot of players in Korea, not that many cities. So I think a lot of people think that Korean players are going to be spread throughout the league. And so you'll see that difference, but the funnels are like coming up from these leagues from, Apex, from Contenders EU, from Contenders NA, from all these other leagues that potentially could pop up in other regions. And I think the only other real benefit of doing that, of regionalizing the tier 2 leagues, is that it does help facilitate that localness, and you can play on the servers properly, and because for a lot of these teams that are not quite making it into Overwatch League, they're probably not going to have the same amount of money to like maybe buy a house and do the whole 9 yards with salaries and everything. So it at least allows for players to just play. It makes it easier access, I suppose. I don't know.
I get the easier access, but it's this whole thing with combines and contenders. it's supposed to be measuring everything against each other. Like, you're supposed to pick the best players, and if you have only the best NA players playing each other, it's a bit misleading. I mean, I'm assuming we're gonna have experts on all the teams, so they can see between the Korean and West, NA and EU kind of lines. But
Yeah.
if they
And who knows,
don't,
maybe they'll combine them in the future. Who knows?
yeah. So it's the way it's configured is a little bit odd, just based
Yeah.
because it is region locked in a way, right? Like,
Yeah, and here's the thing though too with that. The more I'm thinking about this, I'm trying to think of what that would look like logistically, because we're looking at what, like 16 teams here.
yeah.
And then we'd
Logistically,
be
it's a
looking
nightmare.
at like 16 teams from NA, 16 teams from EU, and if you like really blending them all together, it would just be this massive like 64 team plus,
Yeah.
situation, and it's very hard to then isolate storylines with individual players when you're trying to wade through that muck. Maybe that's why they're
Well,
splitting
hopefully
it up
they
by
won't
region.
like force NA teams to only pick from NA contenders and stuff like that. As long as that doesn't happen,
I can't imagine they do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
well, definitely more questions to
Right.
be answered, of course.
Yeah.
But anyways, Apex Season 4, I think we're not going to see the full. I think we're still going to see all the great players in this season for the most part. Maybe halfway through they have to, join the Overwatch League or something. I'm not sure exactly when the timing's going to be, but I think Season 4 for the most part will still be what we're used to with Apex.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Oh, the last thing, maybe just one quick. Well, we didn't really talk about NB's third place match against AFB. I mean, nothing too much there. AFB ended up beating NB. I think it was 3-1, right? And
4-1 because it's best of 7.
Oh yeah, 4-1, yeah. And I mean, NB just didn't look like. I don't know. They just didn't look like the same NB to me. So I feel like they were a bit checked out already. After losing in the semis.
I'll just come out and say something on this point. I think Mickey is underperforming for this team. I won't sugarcoat it at all. I think that just even watching not this set, but even the one previously when they got knocked out in the semifinals, Mickey didn't quite look like he was on the same level. I saw some questionable plays. He's not protecting his tracer and his healers as much as he should. He's kind of going head first a lot of the time. I don't mean to be like controversial just for the sake of being controversial, but I honestly think that Mickey might be the weak link on that team right now. Anyway,
I have had that thought before, and this is I haven't been paying attention to that the scene as much just because of my focus in NA and EU. But every time I've watched them, that's been like lingering thought in the back of my mind is what is the diva doing? And that's just something I've been asking a lot lately. And it's another reason why I have questions about hyped on Immortals is what is the diva doing? Because those are two examples of aggressive divas that when diva was really strong in the tank meta, took over games and were able to have high impact. But now are they having as much of an impact when their primary job maybe is to protect their backline? And the decision quality there it's a different frame of mind that you need to be coming from. And that's been my question with Mickey as well.
Yeah. And I think that what you do see is it's not like a total misplay, like a misplay or misstrategy or that type of thing. It's just, I think we're seeing Mickey just be a tiny bit late a lot. And you can't be late.
Things,
You cannot be late against the top teams in the world because that's like, your entire support or both supports dying. So I would agree with you too, Ben, and I think a lot of some of the other folks are probably had the same sentiments too. So, yeah, I mean, Mickey's a great player though. Like we've seen him. I mean, watching him play on the Thailand team, you actually saw him flex to DPS, and we forget how great of an FPS player that Mickey is generally. So, he was a world champ, right? Or he was a champ in what game was it? It was not Crossfire. What's the game that was big in Asia? He was
one of those. I don't know.
Anyways, he was a champion in that particular game too. So, it would be sad to see Mickey get dropped, given that he's such a charismatic player and a figure on the NVS team. But definitely would like to see his play raised up a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, let's do some Q&A, guys, since we haven't had any Q&A for a while. So whenever we get a question, it's definitely a good one. We had a question about hero bands from A Fan. That's how he signed it, A Fan. So he had a suggestion, and it's kind of a long one, but basically before each game, both teams get to ban one hero, and this is a suggestion and ways to see what we think. They cannot be the same hero class. So, for instance, if one team has a diva and the second team cannot ban another tank hero. So, I guess ban one DPS, ban one tank, something like that, and then both teams can't play it. So it's not just like a single team can't play it; both teams can't play it. So what do you guys think of that? I mean, he has his analysis of it. I kind of don't want to go through it, the whole thing, just because we'd be sitting here reading for a minute or two. But what do you think about the hero bans? Yeah, what do you think about the hero bans? And I mean, ignoring the fact that we'd have to have, facilities in the game to, prevent just people picking these heroes. But if we could do that, what do you guys think of hero bans?
I think this is one of the first things we ever talked about on the show, probably.
Yeah.
Way back in the day. We haven't talked about it in a while. I'm still of the belief that this game, we need like double the number of heroes that we have right now for banning to even be a conversation.
Yeah.
Even then, I'm not sure I'd want it. Even let's say it had 100 heroes. Let's say it was like Dota or League style.
Yeah.
Then I wouldn't. Then you could do a traditional MOBA pick ban phase. That could be really interesting. But at the rate they're releasing heroes, that'll be in 15 years or so. So yeah.
But the pick.
Or wait, actually, probably more than 15 years. Like 20 years. Yeah.
But it wouldn't be pick ban. It would just be ban because there's no such thing.
Yeah. I understand. Yeah.
I don't like it. Well, first of all, because I think that what you do with that, what the banning allows you to do is, well, two things. So first of all, it allows you to make up for a potentially broken game, honestly.
Yeah,
right. And I think Overwatch is actually fairly balanced at this point. And so really the only thing a ban would benefit you is it would actually constrict the meta. It would actually make it worse because it would just mean you have fewer options in a fairly balanced game. So you ban Winston, and now it's like, well, now dive comp's kind of awkward. I guess we'll play something else and as much as I want to see different metas and different things being played, right now the reality is that it's actually a pretty balanced game, and the only thing that I think can make it to the place where you are going to see much more diversity is just more heroes in general. And I don't think bans is necessarily the solution for that. In fact, what bans would do would imbalance it back to a worse state.
Okay, I guess I'll follow up with just maybe a mini question, which is I think why he suggested it was really this attempt or this wanting of an additional strategic aspect of competitive events, prior to each match. So if it's not pick bans like we've seen with MOBAs, and it's already been established in other esports, and it's not just map bans too, which we've been doing, or we've been wanting to do for a while. We haven't been able to do it quite as much recently. Is there any other strategic element of Overwatch that we could add?
I thought about this quite a bit, and the only thing I can think of, and keep in mind that this is kind of how Blizzard operates as well, is taking that slow and steady calculated approach with this is more heroes, because what you want is you want different facets of different compositions to be viable. So you want to be able to, so say I want to play dive comp, I've got 2-3 tanks I can pick from. I've got a variety of DPS and heals maybe to pick from. Now I'm custom tailoring my dive comp to maybe my opponents, or custom tailoring it to the map a little bit. And so I think that heroes is going to be the next thing that helps with that strategic aspect. And the only other thing I could think of is maybe fixing a couple of the heroes that I would say need some work, Roadhog, maybe Mercy. Because I think everyone serves their purpose right now. Reaper is a good example of someone who he's good at what he does. Sombra is another good example of like how teams have been able to incorporate this hero strategically. And we're just going to have to see how, as new heroes are being launched, how the teams adapt to that. Because I think we're going to see a lot more adaptation in the future just based on that.
I'd be interested to see new game modes too. Not like there's
actually,
I don't know if there's a ton more you can do, but
there is. You just have to get really creative.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, when Overwatch first came out, I have a background in enemy territory and Wolfenstein, and I think a lot of what you see in Overwatch is actually kind of loosely based on some of those old game types, like pushing a cart. That came to TF2 as well, so maybe they're just looking at TF2. But pushing a cart, pushing a payload was one of them. There was always ones that were kind of similar to 2CP, where like, but usually it would be like 3 different points. There'd be like several points throughout the map.
Yeah.
Of course, they didn't have the issue of Overwatch where the defense and offense spawns are so off kilter. I still to this day don't know why they decided to do that as a design choice. But there was a specific game type that I loved, which was usually called something like, run the documents. So there's like documents in some place and you have to get them out. Obviously, this game has characters like Tracer that
like
would be
flag-ish
would basically it would basically
with,
be like
with one attacking team and one defending.
Yeah,
team,
one attacking, one defending. It would basically mean you have to play Tracer probably like in the current meta, or someone else that
It's like
is
Sombra,
super mobile. But I don't think that's a problem. Personally, I don't really see
think
that
you
as a
design
problem.
the maps as such that it doesn't necessarily become a problem. Yeah.
Well, I think as a player and just a hardcore Overwatch player, I think it's fascinating. I think it's really, really cool just to have diversity, right? Like if on this map have a complete, total different way of playing it, and we're utilizing the heroes in completely different ways. Maybe there's a map where we can play all the same heroes and it's just like completely different, like just outlandish things like that, right? I'm totally okay with that as a player, but as a spectator, like if we're going to make this into an esport, I just think that would be confusing, like to the audience. It's even more for them to have to understand. So
you got to ease them in a little bit.
Yeah, I like them, but so maps. I do think that maps are the only vessel that we can possibly integrate strategy into it prior to the match. I think they need to design maps that have like a choice. Like maybe you design a map that actually has 2 starting spots and 2, points and things like that. And we choose, like, you either choose A or B before the match starts, and for whatever reason that might benefit you. You know what I mean? Like there's some complexity to that.
That's an interesting idea.
But
that does add some complexity. Yeah. That one, and even just a bigger map pool adds a certain strategic element, because now what maps you're picking and playing become a little bit more relevant. Mm-hmm. The only other game mode that I wanted to bring up that I think is interesting, and if it did make its way into competitive, it might not be for a while, just because of how or in the early stages of development it might be, but is the elimination mode, where you can only play one hero once if you win.
Oh, yeah.
And so where you play multiple rounds, but as soon as you win on a specific hero or a specific comp, then you can't play it anymore. Because look, strategically from that point, then you really have to theory craft multiple compositions to go against each other, because as soon as you play, and it works really well in 3v3 just because of the number of heroes. As soon as you play that composition, now you have to have another thing in your pocket and another thing in your pocket. And unlike bans, because you might say, well, that's just as restrictive as bans because you can't play. But you did play that. You have the full hero pool to potentially play from, but you have to have like multiple hands. Like
it's conquest, basically. Yeah, you have to win with every single hero to actually complete this. And eventually you get to the point where you probably don't have any supports left, and you are just death fragging it out like at the end, and that'd be pretty interesting. Again, like I don't know if that's the esport product, but it's fascinating though, at the very least.
It's an interesting competitive mode, and I don't know. It's the only other mode that I've ever thought of that I could see it being strategically relevant in a.
It's just tough when you have 100 heroes. Then it's like, what do you do, right?
Right.
Well, maybe you can only choose like X number.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for the email, a fan. And again, guys, if you want to write into us, have us answer whatever question you have, go ahead and do that by emailing the overview at ChanManV.tv, and we'll take a look at it. But that's going to be it, guys. We're going to wrap up tonight. I know we want to get back to watching some Overwatch World Cup. So why don't we wrap up here? Gil, it's a pleasure having you on, man. Thanks for tuning or joining us like this late at night, or actually it's not that late at night for you, given that you're in Colorado.
No, not too bad.
Yeah.
I actually have a meeting after this.
Oh, do you really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for working in the time, man. We really appreciate it. Any shout outs you want to do? Where can people find you?
Well, find me at Gilfrost, Gillfrost on Twitter. And I'm also on Twitch. I actually might be doing some more streaming in the future, but I have not done streaming in a long time. So low expectations if you do
Okay.
go there. But yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at. Actually, I have a blog now too. I probably should link that on my Twitter. Go to my Twitter, and I don't even know where it's at. I only have one post yet.
Okay.
So.
Go to his Twitter, guys, and check that out. Ben, want to do some shout outs?
Yeah, in terms of streaming, take those expectations and lower them even lower because no, oh God, I need to stream more. Oh man, it's been way too long. You can just follow me on Twitter at Fishstix. I used to stream regularly, but I don't know, life comes at you, and I'm a sleepy man sometimes. Anyway, it was a good show. I'm really excited about the future of Overwatch. I mean, the World Cup has been doing very well. Production is better. Viewership is better. OW League hype is there.
Yeah.
Contenders is right around the corner, and then we're basically just going straight on into BlizzCon.
Yeah,
which is going to be great.
BlizzCon's going to be hype.
So lots of stuff to be hyped for in the near future.
All right, and I'll wrap up by thanking both of you guys and Graceful for doing the show tonight, and all of you guys for watching too, because I know you guys could be watching World Cup, so I really appreciate you guys watching tonight. So the audios will be up on iTunes probably tomorrow morning for you guys. I'll post it tonight, but you guys will probably be asleep. But YouTube also I'll have ready by tomorrow morning, so definitely check it out. Let friends know you like the show. Let other people know too, because we're trying to get as many people to watch the show. Of course, you can follow the show on Twitter, the Overview at the Overview GG. You can follow me also at ChanManV, and I'm not going to give you any expectations for watching me stream because I just don't have time to do it anymore, unfortunately, which sucks. Just so the shows are for the most part what I'll be doing on the stream. So tune into that. I have just other podcasts I do too. You can find them all on YouTube if you like Hearthstone and all that good stuff. But that's going to be it, guys, for the overview this week. So for Gilfrost, Graceful, Fishstix, and myself, ChanManV, we'll see you next time.